Welcome back. Now that we've covered all the automatically generated visualizations, we've gone into a little bit of detail on the trend visualization that has a lot of features to it. Now let's talk about the second type of visualization, which is managed visualizations, often referred to as charts in our software. And so if you look along the left navigation menu here, you have, at any level of the hierarchy, you can have KPIs, charts, or tables. We're going to focus in on the charts section. And on the dashboard you see here, I actually have a chart right up front. This is a Pareto chart. And so it's been added to my dashboard. But again, at any level of hierarchy, these things can exist. So I'm going to go to the home level where we have a whole bunch of examples running already in this demo site. So we're going to go through a few of those. And then we're also in this section going to cover tables as one of our chart types that's a little different, so it gets its own button there, but we'll talk through it. So let's talk about the concept of charts. First of all, they're created by the administrator if they're in this section, because they are things that either required queries from the data source to do it, or individual bars to be defined, or they need to live in a certain part of the hierarchy, so they have attributes and geolocation and other important things about them. You can have as many as you want, and again, there's lots of different options. Let's look at a few of these, and here is the bar chart. So if I click here, and this is one example of a bar chart, which is a clustered bar chart. And as you can see, if they're time-based, I can change the time range. If I've customized it, I can do anything there. Or I can click here on the details page and actually see what is in this particular bar chart and how it's been set up. Okay, so that is one of the examples of a bar chart. Let's go look at a few more. Here is a stacked bar chart that happens to be horizontal in nature instead of vertical. Let's look at this month, week, day bar chart. Now this was manually created to show a really cool feature. You can see what's happening the last few days or the last week on individual days, and then before that you see what's happened the 3 weeks before that, and then the 3 months before that. And again, these are live, so each of these bars is going to be hooked up to a data source, or the entire thing could be generated by a query from a data source in the back end, not for the end user to do. And you can see these are moving charts, so you can really get a great view, and has a baseline on it and other things. There's a few more query-based charts. Let's see if there's anything else interesting. Another clustered bar chart in here, and another stacked bar chart that is not horizontal. This one's vertical. Okay, so that's a little bit about the bar chart. Lots of options, and all that's covered in detail in the designer training, as is all of these visualizations. The next type is embedded content. So this includes, like the YouTube video. So if I click here on it, you'll see this is that YouTube video that we have from our website just presented. I had it put on the dashboard, but in this case, it is sitting in the hierarchy just at the home level, but it could be sitting anywhere. And this could be a live video feed or a process graphic HMI screen where I'm actually controlling things, etc. So that's another type of embedded content there. You go back here, the next one would be a Gantt chart. The Gantt chart is something that's fairly advanced. We won't go into detail here, but right when you hook it up to data sources, and one of the unique things about our Gantt chart that is also unique to our software in general is just how good it responds on a mobile device. So if I'm on a smaller thing, let's close this out. If I'm on a smaller thing here, I can just toggle back and forth whether I want to see this side or the other side, and then scroll right through my Gantt chart very easily on a phone with my finger. So a pretty powerful Gantt chart concept there. And if you need help figuring out how to interact with that, you can go into a lot more detail directly with us. The next one is one of our favorite charts there is, and that is the Pareto chart. And if you're not familiar with the Pareto chart, very simple and very obvious chart. It's like a bar chart, except there's this black line on it which shows percent of total. So when you get to the upper right, this is always going to be a 100%. And then it's always stacked, or it's always ordered by the tallest bar on the left. So in this particular case, it's showing me my downtime by cause, or this could be my issues by error code, or how many support tickets I have by category or in a particular status. And it's showing me in this case downtime by cause that the biggest cause of my downtime, in fact 61% of all my incidences or all my downtime, is safety incident related. And because that is such a large percentage, if I fix that problem, I've fixed a majority of what I'm working on. So when you put this with any context in any interesting Pareto chart, it's a very quick view to see who's your worst performer, who's causing the problems, and is it an even distribution or an uneven distribution. Really powerful chart there and super easy to set up. So that's another chart type there. And then the pie chart here, we don't use pie charts very often, but we have pie charts. You know, the reason we don't use them, they're big and round and take up a lot of space, but some people really want them. So we've put a pie chart in there, also contains all the same features of the other charts. And then let's talk about the last two. I talked a little bit about managed trends. Let's look at one here. So this is a trend where the administrator decided to put these three values on it, or in this case, this is three different values from the same data, or sorry, the same value, three different times from the same data source, but offset in time. If you look at the legend, you'll see it's this value or this value an hour ago or this value 2 hours ago. It's also a good way to show you that we support future data. So if this wasn't time offset, but you had a predictive analytics engine or a service that you're reading as another data source for machine learning or something, you're going to be able to see how it extends out into the future. And now you can see the trend moving there as well. So another thing about trends, you can put up to 20 pens on a trend. They have all the same features I showed in the trends section of this training. The difference, again, they're made by the administrator. And even if you do a query-based one, then you can get up to 100 pens on a trend, not that you should. Let me show you one more example of that. Here's one with all the different types of pens. I've got an interpolated trend. I've got a step trend. I've got an interpolated plus symbol. I've got a symbol trend, step plus symbol, etc. So this is just one trend that I made up with all the different example pen types on it. So that's the managed trend. And the last one that we'll go through here, all the way down here at the bottom, is the XY plot, or also known as a scatter plot. And this is where you're going to have multiple axes. In this particular case, it's a wind turbine example, where the blue line shows how much power a wind turbine should put out at a certain wind speed. And what I'm looking at is, that's the blue line, and then all the dots are the measurements of how it's performing. And you can see there's some underperformance here or even off. And that means it's just not performing as it should. That's one thing. And you see some that are overperforming. That can also be a big problem. If I use this wind turbine example, if you're producing more power than a wind turbine should at a particular wind speed, you probably have set something wrong on the wind turbine. And if you leave it that way long enough, it's going to break. So just a great example, and just like any other visualization, you can go down here and turn off pens in the legend, etc., and have the same features in it. So those are a little bit about the managed charts that exist in there in the system. And then the last thing let's talk about are tables. I'm going to switch over to tables. I'm also at the home group. Tables, unlike a lot of this time series information or historical information that we're looking at, this is when you want to also show SQL or rectangular or tabular information, depending on what term you like to use. So right alongside, how is this machine performing, or how's this person performing, or how much revenue am I making, or whatever your measurement is that you care about. You also now could see, oh, here's a list of things. Here's all the list of machines that failed, or here's the maintenance log for this particular machine, or something that isn't trendable or doesn't fit into these other charts. So let's look at a couple of examples. Here's a maintenance log example, very simple one where I'm going to just see those pieces. Let's look at a more interesting one where the status has colors. So all these trends are these tables are done in the background by the configuration or the administrator, and really just a query of any SQL data source, even Excel. And so you also can even support HTML in the cells, so they can have colors and icons, et cetera, or even links to other things. The last one I'll show you down here is, let's find the long table. So if you have a really big table, you'll see it'll be automatically paginated. If it has time in it as a key variable, then I'll be able to scroll backwards and forward in time. And all of the tables support searching. So let me go back to this one that has colors here. And there's a search icon here. And if I just start typing, let's type L-E-A-K, leak. So now I found anything in this table that involves leak. So that's another feature of our tables. Tables, of course, like everything else, are live, and they are fully responsive, so they're going to look good on any device. Okay, you can learn a little bit about the details. You can view the table data itself, and you can even export these, much like you could in a trend. So that's a little bit about the tables feature, and that's the end of this section. Next, we'll be diving into the fun world of analytics and also ad hoc visualizations. Please join us.